Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Yes, it's a bit different than normal. A little bit of technical problems with my blue screen background, so please ignore the chaos behind. We are back for another story time today. By player request, actually. Another snapshot of the arena and a few more of the individuals that make their livings there. A bit of an interesting story, fairly short one today, about a paladin who wants to prove herself in the arena. So comment below, let me know how you're liking these stories, and enjoy, and see you soon.
The arena was not a place for the righteous. Hidden deep beneath Titan's bustling streets, its smoky air carried the acrid tang of blood and sweat. A cacophony of cheers, jeers, and the clang of weapons echoed off the stone walls. This was a place where strength, cunning, and brutality reigned supreme. It was no wonder, then, that the organizer of the arena, a stout and shrewd dwarf named Corin Goldtooth, raised a skeptical eyebrow when Silvara Brightscale stood before him. The silver dragonborn paladin's radiant presence was a stark contrast to the grimy underground venue. Her silvery scales shimmered in the dim light, and her longsword and heavy shield gleamed with an almost otherworldly brilliance. Corin leaned back in his rickety chair, his arms crossed, his one good eye narrowing at her. "You want to fight here?" he asked, his gruff voice tinged with disbelief. "A paladin, of all people? What's next? A cleric preaching sermons in the ring?" Silvara inclined her head, her posture regal yet unyielding. "I wish to prove that righteousness can endure, even in the darkest corners of the world. The arena is as good a place as any to start." Corin scoffed, scratching at his braided beard. "Listen, Shiny Scales, you don't belong here. People come to see blood, chaos, not some holy crusader waving a sword around and preaching virtue. You'll scare off the crowd, or worse, draw attention we don't need." Silvara remained calm, though her gaze didn't waver. "I have no intention of preaching, nor do I shy away from bloodshed when the cause is just. Let me fight. If I fail, I'll leave quietly, and you'll lose nothing. If I win—" She let her words hang in the air, her confidence unshaken. Corin grumbled under his breath, eyeing her weaponry and sturdy frame. Despite his doubts, the arena thrived on spectacle, and a shining paladin stepping into the ring would certainly be that. "Fine," he relented, "but don't expect me to save your scales if things go south. You're up against Ryla Duskthorn. That tiefling's faster than a whip and twice as mean. Don't say I didn't warn you." The arena roared with anticipation as Silvara stepped into the pit. The crowd, initially stunned by her radiant appearance, quickly burst into jeers and laughter. Her polished armor and noble demeanor seemed almost comical amidst the grime and brutality of the underground. Across from her, Ryla Duskthorn emerged from the shadows, her crimson skin glowing faintly under the torchlight. Her curled horns framed her sharp, focused features, and her brass knuckles gleamed like predators' teeth. She was lithe, quick, and dangerous, her infernal heritage evident in every calculated step she took. "Hope you're ready to dance, Scales," Ryla taunted, her voice low and sultry, yet edged with menace. "Because I don't go easy, even on shiny folk." Silvara raised her shield and readied her sword. "Do your worst," she replied evenly. The announcer's voice boomed, "Fight!" Ryla sprang into action, a blur of motion. She darted to the side, her fists flying in rapid strikes aimed at Silvara's shield. The paladin deflected the blows with practiced precision, her shield ringing like a bell with each impact. Ryla was relentless, using her acrobatics to keep Silvara on the defensive, circling like a predator. Silvara bided her time, waiting for an opening. When Ryla lunged forward for a low strike, the paladin pivoted, bringing her longsword down in a sweeping arc. Ryla twisted away at the last moment, the blade grazing her arm but not slowing her down. "Not bad, Scales," Ryla hissed, her grin feral, "but you'll have to do better." The fight continued in a whirlwind of clashes. Ryla's speed and agility were a stark contrast to Silvara's measured, deliberate strikes. The crowd roared as the tiefling landed a solid punch to Silvara's side, the force jarring but not enough to topple the paladin. Gritting her teeth, Silvara retaliated with a shield bash that sent Ryla stumbling back. Seizing the moment, Silvara charged forward, her sword slicing through the air. Ryla barely avoided the strike, the blade carving a deep groove in the arena floor. The tide began to shift. Silvara's endurance and discipline started to wear Ryla down. The tiefling's movements grew a fraction slower, her strikes less precise. Sensing her advantage, Silvara pressed forward, her longsword a blur of silver light as she drove Ryla back. In a final, decisive moment, Silvara feinted a strike with her sword, drawing Ryla's guard low. With a roar, she brought her shield up in a powerful uppercut, the edge slamming into Ryla's jaw. The tiefling staggered, dazed, and Silvara followed with a sweeping blow from her sword, striking Ryla's brass knuckles and sending them clattering to the ground. Ryla fell to her knees, breathing hard, blood trickling from her lip. As Silvara lowered her weapon and offered Ryla a hand, a towering Loxodon pushed through the crowd. Morga Thundertusk, her warhammer slung over her shoulder, approached with a steady gait. The Loxodon's presence was commanding, her tusks gleaming as she knelt beside Ryla. "You fought well, sister," Morga said, her deep voice soothing as she cast a healing spell over the injured tiefling. Ryla winced but managed a faint smirk. "She hits like a cart full of bricks," Ryla muttered, her gaze flicking to Silvara. "Not bad, Scales, not bad at all," Silvara nodded respectfully. "You fought with great skill." It was an honor. As Morga helped Ryla to her feet, the other fighters gathered at the edge of the pit, their skeptical glances replaced with quiet respect. Even Karan, watching from his perch above the arena, stroked his beard thoughtfully. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered. "Maybe this shiny paladin's got a place here after all." Silvara sheathed her sword and stood tall, her silvery scales shimmering in the dim light. She had proven herself, not only to the crowd, but to the fighters who now regarded her with something more than disdain. For the first time, the chaotic heart of the arena felt a little less dark.